Revolutionary greetings, comrades. Following the election of President Emmerson Mnangagwa for a second term, the focus by some in ZANU-PF is for him to run for a third term in the 2028 elections. To them, it is not about service delivery. It is not about ensuring that President Emmerson Mnangagwa and his government deliver basic services to the people of Zimbabwe. But of course, we're not surprised because they have no plan for Zimbabwe. They had no election manifesto in the August 2023 elections. So they have no clue on what government must do. In the absence of a clear political and economic program to improve the material conditions of the people of Zimbabwe, they then embark on a political campaign to get President Emmerson Mnangagwa to be elected for a third term. This basically means that they do not think, just like in the Mugabe days, they do not think that within ZANU-PF there is no any other person qualified to be president of Zimbabwe. So in other words, there is a leadership crisis in ZANU-PF, according to them. Because if indeed there was no leadership crisis inside the ZANU-PF, and the ZANU-PF as a political institution, a formal liberation movement that advances the ideals of the liberation of Zimbabwe, they will not be running short of leaders to an extent that they want to recycle President Emmerson Mnangagwa to run for a third term. We can study other former liberation movements. SWAPO, they change leaders after every 10 years. Chama Puns in Tanzania, they change leaders after every 10 years. The African National Congress changes leaders after every 10 years. But ZANU-PF, because they are short of leaders according to them, they want to cling on Emmerson Mnangagwa to continue as president for a third term. They are not worried about service delivery. But because they see President Emmerson Mnangagwa as a man that will afford them to continue to loot, right? So it is not about service delivery, it is about looting. But what does the Constitution of Zimbabwe say? Because also in the opposition ranks, the records that happened, some are accused of having given ZANU-PF a penalty for Emmerson Mnangagwa to run for a third term, to amend the constitution. But what does the Constitution of Zimbabwe say? It says under qualifications for election as president and the vice president, I quote, a person is disqualified for election as a president or appointment as vice president if he or she has already held office as president under this constitution for 2 terms, whether continuously or not, and for the purposes of this subsection, 3 or more years service is deemed to be a full term. Close quote. So a person is disqualified. I will read again. Quote, a person is disqualified for election as a president or appointment as vice president if he or she has already held office as president under this constitution for 2 terms, whether continuous or not, and for the purpose of this subsection, 3 or more years service is deemed to be full term. Close quote. Of course, like I have already said, ZANU-PF is not worried about violating the constitution, doing things illegal, right? I've not really checked on how the Chief Justice extended the term I will in the next video check properly the constitution. So we are not surprised, or will not be surprised, if they do an illegality and they have President Mnangagwa running for a third term. But what does the Constitution again say on amendment of the Constitution? It says, I quote, notwithstanding any other provision of this section, as amendment to a term limit provision, the effect of which is to extend the length of time that a person may hold or occupy any public office, does not apply in relation to any person who held or occupied that office or an equivalent office at any time before the amendment, close quote. So in other words, according to this section or clause, it means yes, the Constitution of Zimbabwe can be amended. And when I was perusing through the Zimbabwean Constitution, it also requires a referendum, right? So a third term, this provision can be amended to grant a third term, but it does not, and we need to underline this, this is where the illegality comes in. It does not benefit the incumbent. So if the Parliament of Zimbabwe, after the referendum, amends the Zimbabwean Constitution and remove term limits for the president and the vice presidents, it does not benefit President Emmerson Mnangagwa. It will benefit the one that will come after him. But because ZANU-PF strives on illegality, we will not be surprised. But if we were to follow the Constitution, which was adopted in 2013, President Emmerson Mnangagwa cannot serve 2 terms. Instead of the opposition blaming each other for gifting ZANU-PF to amend the Constitution for Emmerson Mnangagwa to run for a 3rd term, the opposition should be pointing out this illegality. That while you might have 2/3 majority, the Constitution does not allow you. Yes, you can amend, Parliament can amend, but it does not benefit the sitting president. Please share your views, write in the comment section. I am Mabuto Nicholas Mapena, General Secretary of the Zimbabwe Communist Party. Like this video, subscribe to this YouTube channel. If you are on TikTok, please do follow us. Otherwise,